Welcome everyone. Today I'm excited to show you MotionMaster 3D, a high-end tracking toolkit built for speed, quality, and efficiency. MotionMaster 3D is a complete pipeline with a wide range of features. It includes many panels, but it's still quite simple to use. Here you can see all the panels. Each panel is a focused module, designed to do one job exceptionally well. Together they form a complete tracking pipeline, streamlined, efficient, and predictable. Whether you're working on a single shot or a full batch, everything stays organized, with tools that are always one click away. Before we continue, I also ran a quick timing benchmark using the same footage on the same PC. I tested FlaxTrax, Camera Tracker V4, MotionMaster 3D Heavy, and MotionMaster 3D Quick. These are the average processing times, so you can get a realistic sense of speed. With that said, here's a bit of background on the project. I've used everything I've learned from building FlaxTrax and FlaxFlow to make this tool as good as possible. If there's a feature you'd like to see added, feel free to reach out through the website or leave a comment below. Now let's jump in and see it in practice. The first thing you'll need to do is install it, enable it in Preferences, and then follow the setup procedure to make sure the required packages are installed. Currently, you'll need a Windows computer. After that, you should be able to find it in the N panel on the right-hand side. Then you can log into your MotionMaster 3D account and you'll see all the features available for your licensed tier. Before we start tracking, here's the big picture of how MotionMaster 3D works. There are two workflows. The first is the single footage workflow, where you work on one sequence at a time. You load your footage in the Select Footage panel, then you run an operator, which is simply a tool you run from its panel. You can use Quick Tracker for real-time tracking, or Heavy Tracker for the most robust solve. If you want to ignore moving objects like cars or people, you can generate a mask first and then run Heavy Tracker with masking enabled. Heavy Tracker can also generate a dense point cloud, which can be used for mesh generation. After tracking, you can clean up the point cloud, align it to the floor, and reuse the result later through the Import Results panel. The second workflow is batch processing. Here, you choose an output folder in the batch processing panel, then you add multiple sequences as input. You can either select a watch folder that contains one subfolder per image sequence, or you can manually add sequences by entering each path yourself. After that, you select which operators to run for each sequence, and it processes everything automatically and saves the results into subfolders inside the output folder. When you're ready to use the results, you bring them into the scene using the Import Results panel. From there, you can clean up and align the imported results using the Point Cloud Cleanup tool and the Aligner tool, just like in the single footage workflow. Alright, let's start with the single footage workflow. But first, let me explain the Feedback and Support panel and then also the Import Results panel. Here you can quickly report a bug, submit a feature request, ask a question, or share something else. You'll also be able to view your sent messages on the MotionMaster 3D support page on the website. Next up is the Import Results panel. Here you can select a previously generated results folder and use it as the import source. Then, click Scan, and it will automatically detect all results in that folder and allow you to import them correctly. In this example, I have a piece of footage that I tracked twice using the Heavy Tracker, so when I select it, those two results appear. I can then easily choose which one to import, and it will appear in the viewport. I always recommend keeping the Smart Importer option enabled because it prevents the camera from becoming misaligned with the tracked result. If you want, you can also enable undistort, which imports the result generated from the undistorted footage. Okay, now I will begin by going through the single footage pipeline I mentioned earlier. We begin by opening the Select Footage panel. This panel is used when you have a single video or image sequence you want to track. In this case, I'll use a video and convert it to an image sequence. The video is currently 4K, so to speed up tracking, I can convert the frames to 1080p while still using the high-quality footage as the background. When I convert it, it will create a new folder in the same directory as the video, containing all the frames as individual image files. The tool will automatically use the folder for the newly generated image sequence. Otherwise, you would normally enter the path to the image sequence folder manually. The next panel is the batch processing panel. This is an alternative to the select footage panel. The difference is that the select footage panel lets you specify or convert a single piece of footage, while the batch processing panel lets you queue multiple footages and multiple operators at once and run them simultaneously. I'll go into more detail later in this video. For now, we'll begin tracking our newly generated image sequence, which is over 1,500 frames long. There are two tracking options in MotionMaster 3D. The first is the Quick Tracker, which enables real-time camera tracking and includes a great viewer that lets you see what's happening as it runs. The second tracking method is the Heavy Tracker. This provides extremely robust camera tracks in a wide range of situations. The Heavy Tracker also lets you undistort your footage, generate a dense point cloud, and later generate a mesh from it. But first, I'll showcase the Quick Tracker. The Quick Tracker requires you to enter the clip parameters, such as focal length and other settings. If you don't know your focal length, like I don't, you can first use the focal length estimation tool to get an estimate and then simply apply it, which I'll do here. In this case, I got an estimated focal length of 1,292 pixels based on the specified sensor width. The specific sensor width or focal length values don't really matter. The only thing that matters is the resulting focal length in pixels that those values produce, which is what we just estimated, and that's great. There are also some extra panels where you can enter more specific settings, such as distortion, but we can skip that for now and just use the defaults. You can also adjust the performance settings to change how well the Quick Tracker performs. For example, if you notice it's running slowly, or that too few features are being added, you can experiment with those settings. Lastly, there are the parameters for the real-time viewer, which displays the camera tracking as it runs. Because the Quick Tracker works in real time, it usually needs a few frames at the start for initialization and to understand the scene. To get a complete track across all frames, you typically track forwards first, then track backwards to cover the frames it didn't track at the beginning. The Smart Overlap feature makes the backward pass focus only on the frames it missed at the start, instead of tracking the entire sequence again. Now we press Start Auto Tracking, and you'll see the viewer appear in the taskbar, allowing us to watch it track forwards in real time. If you notice it's running slowly, you can reduce the image sequence resolution using the Convert tool, or reduce the total number of features. If the tracking markers seem to have a hard time staying locked on, it's most likely because the camera parameters you entered earlier are incorrect. Once the forward track is finished, it will continue with the backward track. When everything is done, it will import the result into the scene. You'll also notice that it has generated a quick results folder in the same directory as your image sequence. Now that it's finished, we can see our imported result, which includes the bounding parent box for the sparse point cloud and the generated camera. If I select the camera, you can see that it has created keyframes. To get a clearer view, we can start by cleaning up the point cloud using the Point Cloud Cleanup panel. In this panel, you can choose which point cloud to clean and adjust a few parameters depending on how aggressive you want the cleanup to be. Then we simply click Clean Up Point Cloud, and as you can see, most of the outliers disappear. To align it correctly, we can either do it manually by adjusting the parent bounding box, or we can use the Aligner panel. This panel helps us snap the point cloud to the floor and also flip it across the XY plane. Later in this video, I'll also showcase the camera to object inversion feature, which lets us turn a camera track into an object track with help from the masking feature, but more on that later. For now, I'll select a few features, snap them to the floor, and then flip it so it aligns correctly with the Z-axis. Now, to evaluate how good the track is, we can set the image sequence as the camera background and see how well it matches the footage. It already looks great, and with a bit more cleanup to remove outlier points, we end up with something like this. That's pretty much the fundamentals of how to use the Quick Tracker, and it works well in many different scenes. Now we'll move over to the Heavy Tracker, which allows you to get an even more accurate solution. There are two modes in the Heavy Tracking panel. The first is the Simple Preset mode, which lets you choose from pre-made presets with pre-configured settings. The second mode is Custom mode, which lets you specify every setting manually. If you'd like a more in-depth explanation of all the different settings, feel free to leave a comment and I might create a new video going through them in detail. Or you can read more in the documentation on the website. For now, I'll show you how to use the simple version. First, you choose which preset you want to use. There are many presets, and you can hover over each one to see a description of when to use it. In most cases, the general purpose preset is a great starting point, so I'll use that. Next, you enable variable focal length if you have a zoom lens or footage with changing focal length. You should also enable angled/rotated camera if your footage contains significant roll or tilt. In this case, I'll use this footage I used in another video, a drone flying through a structure. It doesn't have any significant rotation or zoom, so I won't enable those options. I also won't enable undistortion or high-quality dense yet because I want to show the base case first. Then I simply click Auto Track Heavy and it will begin. Now we can go into the progress panel, which appears while an operator is running. I'll speed this part up a bit to save time. And now that it's done, we can see it took 1 minute and 17 seconds. We'll start by cleaning up the point cloud a little to get a clearer view of the result. Then I'll select a few vertices in edit mode, snap them to the floor, and flip the result to align it correctly. And now, with the background video added, we can see an extremely stable track. Now we can switch footage again, and this time use the heavy tracker with the undistort and dense point cloud features enabled. I will be using this footage. It took around 3 minutes and 30 seconds to process, and now we have a perfectly tracked scene with colored points that seamlessly integrate with the background. And lastly, here's a demonstration of a video that's first converted into a dense point cloud and then into a mesh. Now we'll move on to the AI masking feature. This time, I'll use this footage with a moving car in the middle of the frame. Since the car isn't moving with the scene, we can first mask it out and then track only the background. First, we enter the path to the sequence as usual in the sequence panel. Then we go into the mask panel and choose which model we want to use. This time, I'll use the smallest model, which is still very good and also extremely fast. Finally, I choose a folder where the mask sequence will be saved, so we can reference it later when we track the background. Now the Mask Selector viewer window appears. Here we simply go to the frame where we want to define the masking region, click on the object to select it, and then press Enter. After that, we wait until it says it's finished at the bottom. Once the indicator appears, we can open the Mask Output folder in Explorer and see the result, where the masked region is white and the unmasked region is black. Now we can go into the Heavy Tracker, enable the mask option, and choose to use the black area as the tracking region. That way, it ignores the car while tracking. Then we simply start the Heavy Tracker and wait. The Heavy Tracker is finished, and now we can see a perfect camera track without the car interfering with the solve. As you can see, the result is accurate and stable. This allows you to have moving elements in your scene, such as people, cars, animals, or other objects, and simply mask them out so you can track the rest of the scene quickly and easily. Now we'll move over to the batch processing tool. This is one of the most powerful features in MotionMaster 3D. It allows you to run multiple operators on multiple footages at the same time. When you open the batch processing panel and enable it, you'll see this. First, it asks you to choose an output folder. This is where the results for each sequence will be stored. Each image sequence gets its own subfolder, and each operator run on that sequence gets its own subfolder inside that sequence folder. I'll use this one as an example. Next, you specify which image sequences you want to process. You can either select a watch folder that contains one subfolder per image sequence. MotionMaster 3D will automatically detect those subfolders as separate footages. Or you can manually add each image sequence by providing its path. I'll start by showing how to use a watch folder as the input. When we use that folder as the input, it will look inside the folder, go into each subfolder, and recognize those subfolders as separate footages it can track. In the input sequence list, we can choose which operators we want to run on each one. C stands for the Convert tool in the Select Footage panel, Q stands for the Quick Tracker, H stands for the Heavy Tracker, and M stands for the Mesh Generator. Each selected letter tells MotionMaster 3D which operators to run for that footage. For each enabled operator, it will use the currently active settings in the corresponding panel. So, for example, if I enable Q and H on sequence 1 to run both quick tracking and heavy tracking, and then enable heavy tracking on sequence 2 and 3, it will use whatever settings are currently active in those panels. So make sure the settings you want are the ones that are active before you start. Then we can press Start Processing. It will go through each footage and run each selected operator. In this case, we'll also be able to see the progress live on the MotionMaster 3D website in the dashboard. That means you can start tracking multiple sequences, then check the progress from your phone at any time. I've also enabled the email setting in the Account panel, so it sends me a notification when everything is finished. Now, when the batch process is finished, it won't automatically import the results. Instead, you'll use the Output Results panel. Here, it detects all the folders inside the results directory. If we click on sequence 1, we can see both the Q result and the H result, which stand for the quick and heavy track, as mentioned earlier. If we click the heavy track, we can see the available heavy track results. If you've run multiple heavy tracks on the same image sequence, they will all show up here. To import, I simply select the one I want and click Import Selected. And I'll keep Smart Import enabled. Then I'll clean up the point cloud and align the camera manually. And here you can see a perfectly tracked scene. I'll remove this from the scene and import the other results from the other sequences so we can see how they turned out. And both of them were also tracked with no issues. And just like that, we were able to track our 3 footages in one go using the batch processing tool. That was a quick rundown of the features of MotionMaster 3D. If you'd like to get it, head to motionmaster3d.com. If this helped, please like the video and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.